and we are tracking participation. I am delighted to introduce today's presenters. Sarah Holland is the Instructional Effectiveness Specialist from the Auburn Hills campus and has been with Baker College since 2009. She feels the FGE process is important because it means better learning opportunities and experiences for students and faculty. With this process in place, Sarah is excited about the opportunity for growth and mentorship for faculty at Baker College. Heather Capote-Powell is the Instructional Effectiveness Specialist from the Allen Park campus and has been with Baker College since fall of 2008. She believes the FGE process gives us an intentional check-in for quality improvement for the institution. Heather's excited to present today because the focus of the FGE process is continual growth. And what I would like to do at this point is turn it over to our presenters.
Hey, everybody. Let's see.
And okay, you should have the ability to accept.
Can you see our screen, Allison?
I cannot.
Okay. Okay, one sec.
Top left-hand corner, click Share. And then my screen.
Aha, success.
Sorry, give us 1 second.
1 second.
Click on your mail. I don't want to click on it. Yeah, you have to close this. Don't move that. All right, here we go. Welcome. We're very excited to be able to go through this process with you and discuss it, and we're very thankful that you have tuned in and are listening. So welcome, welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for taking the time to honestly be here and be concerned about this process. Since we're both former adjunct faculty, I think we have that great perspective of knowing just what it's like to be in the trenches and what it means to take time to do something like this. So thank you.
And we'd like to know who we're talking to today and also for you to see each other. So if you could type in the chat box your name and which campus you are from, we would appreciate that. Also, as we move through, like Allison already said, if you have questions, feel free to put those in the chat. And then there's going to be a couple points where we're going to want a discussion and we're going to ask you to unmute yourself and to contribute. So we'll give you a heads up whether we want to chat or contribute or how that's going to go.
Okay, so let's start really with what PGP actually stands for, and it stands for Professional Growth Plan. And the emphasis here is honestly on the fact that it's about a continuous improvement cycle.
So we're going to go through several different aspects today, give you a little background, talk about what the PGP is, the time frame you have, what's involved in the process, and then we're going to spend really the bulk of our time showing resources. So you have your PGP, what resources can you use to go, and then we're going to leave time for discussion. Also questions. So just know that if you have some questions at the end, we're going to leave some time to discuss them.
So feel free to break in at any time. So again, let's begin with something I think is very important, near and dear to teaching, and that's the importance of goals and goal setting and good teaching practice. If we don't have self-reflection and teaching practice, we're not likely to create any kind of change. And frankly, what's wonderful about teaching and the profession of teaching is that one can always improve. You never really reach that moment. would you agree, Sarah? I mean, you're always striving for something better, and what worked yesterday for one class and you thought you were on the summit, frankly, doesn't necessarily work for the next class that you get.
Right.
So the PGP, I think, fosters that kind of goal setting with self-reflection at the heart of the process. So again, we just want to recognize that you're more than a content expert at Baker College. You are somebody who's seriously concerned about teaching and learning practices.
So Heather's just said, you know, self-reflection is really important, and so we want to take a second and talk about that with you. So if you can unmute your screen and share out, do any of you keep some sort of reflection, something, journal, mental notes, whatever, and if so, what's your process? This is where you get to speak and tell us.
Make sure to unmute yourself so we can hear you.
This is Phyllis Seeley from Owasso. I don't often teach as often as I used to, but when I do, part of my lesson plan, I've got right on the lesson plan, there's a space that I kind of reserve for me to go right back as soon as my session is over, and I reflect, you know, immediately at that point. Oftentimes, you know, we use, as instructors, we use a lot of the same maybe lesson plans or at least that format, and maybe from one year to the next or one quarter to the next, and it's always kind of a good idea to go back and say, oh, okay, I remember, you know, reading this reflection, I need to change this and so, or this went really well, you know, things like that.
Yeah, you know what, we were talking earlier, Sarah and I, about self-reflection and how difficult it is simply because of the time frame you're always in. And I was saying to her, especially when I was new, a lot of my self-reflection happened, at least at this level, the college level, in the car, on the way home, you know, knocking my head against the steering wheel.
Yeah. I love that you leave a space for it, Phyllis. That's great. What is anyone else? What do you do?
I had somebody comment in the chat screen, I keep anecdotal notes for myself, goals, accomplishments, etc.
Excellent. And I think the key here is that you write them down. And even if, a lot of times I'll write down even with certain instruction assigned, you know, where I'm assigning and I've got instructions, I find out those instructions weren't any good, so I'm making notes on that for the next time and so forth.
Right. So self-reflection, good, really, really important, but of course that should lead us somewhere, which is to goals. So do any of you take time and actually make or write down goals for yourself in your teaching field?
Okay, and we can't see the screen. Should we move on, Allison?
Did get one other. I create a copy of the current syllabus and make the changes as needed when I find that something did not work or it needs a tweak. That would have been from your last question.
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing yet for this.
Okay, thank you, Allison. So as we talk about self-reflection and goals and completing our goals, really the point that we want to make, the bottom line is that our institution cares about supporting best practices, that we don't just have content experts, but we also have delivery experts. And so it's really important that we begin to implement these things, but that Baker wants to assist you in doing so. And obviously you know that you're here and you've tuned in.
Yeah, and I think that hopefully that you're going to find that this FGEP and the PGP process really lend itself to helping with goal setting and then making the steps to get to those goals.
And we know that just by tuning in, like, you are a quality practitioner, you want to grow, and you are goal setting. So we're going to move forward kind of with that idea that you are that person who wants to improve. So next we're going to talk a little bit about the background of the PGP. So the FGEP process, which the PGP is the final step, was developed to support faculty in their classroom and with professional growth. As I said, it's an institutional goal that you be supported, that we don't just say, you're expected to grow, now go figure that out, but that we're actually helping you with that. And really, it's the PGP that is the step that allows that to happen.
And if you haven't had to go through this new process yet, you may still remember one of the older processes that we used to go through. We're really still talking about the same things. I happened to come across an old rubric which I had somebody evaluate me with way back in probably '09, and you know, it's really a lot of the same things. I think what's better about this process of the PGP is, honestly, it's more focused, that it's clear about what needs to maybe happen and what goals we can set, and then how to actually get those goals met.
And Heather made a point earlier to me. She said, through the old process, you were really told what you had done. Here's what you did well, here's what you didn't do well. But with the new process, it's really, here's what you can do well in the future, which we think is really fantastic.
Yeah, and it could very well be you're doing everything great, but still, where can you go from here? That's one thing I guess I just love about the teaching profession. Again, if you're in teaching, it's because you're not only into helping others improve themselves, but you're in to get continual improvement yourself.
Right. So in your little chat box there, which as Allison's pointed out, you've figured out how to use, raise your hand if you've already been through the FGEP and specifically the PGP process. And Allison, can you let us know if anyone is raising their hand?
Sure. Harold Kroll, Phyllis Seeley, Shannon Meyer.
Okay, great. So several of you have kind of already been through this process and are really ready for the next step. That's fantastic.
So we were thinking maybe the next thing to get through really is the time frame, or when does this PGP actually occur? So remember that in going through the process, the PGP specifically happens at the end of the first year, the end of your second year of teaching, and then just about every third year after that.
Right, and it's actually, as I said earlier, it's the final piece of the FGEP process. So you've been observed, you've been evaluated, you've sat down to conference with your supervisor, and out of that conference comes the PGP.
I think that's really important, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but that it is, it's not just someone telling you, hey, here's what you're going to do, but that you're involved in this too. It's very important to hear from the instructor and where the instructor feels they want to go and what their personal goals are.
Right, and that it's developed together in cooperation. That's a really good point. And kind of the big thing that everyone I talk to, I want to point out is this is not a punitive process. This is not, oh, great, here comes my evaluator, and this time it's going to hurt. That everyone starts somewhere. So your evaluator, your supervisor comes in, and they find out where you're at that moment, and then together you determine where you can go. What's the next step, which we think is really a fantastic model to be able to grow.
Yeah. Did someone have a question? Oh, okay. So in keeping in mind with the time frame, please try to remember, too, that at the end of your first year and then going into your second year, we often think of, obviously we think of a year as 365 days, but that may not be the case, because it could be that, you're taking a term off, or really in the course of 365 days, you've only taught one class. But that would still be counted as a year.
Right.
So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. If you need clarification on that, of course, you should ask your supervisor for clarification. But that's just something to keep in mind.
Right. So next we want to talk about, again, just briefly, what evidence is gathered. And even as Heather and I were putting this together, and I've been through this process, and I have talked to people about it and mentored people in it, and I still had to double check a couple things and just make sure, because there's actually a whole bunch that goes into the data that's collected here on you. It's really interesting.
Yeah, so in talking about that, what's fair game then as far as informative documentation for the upcoming PGPs? In other words, what can your supervisor actually gather? What kind of evidence can they gather? So we wanted to make it clear, because we're not sure if actually everybody knows what can be gathered. So to start with, it would be any prior observation notes And that would include any and all notes from your FGEP observations. So any of those notes are fair game, or any additional observations, which may be less formal. Like, for instance, if there was a drop-in, a walk-by, we'll often do that here on this campus where I'll just walk in, or a dean will walk in, sit down for 15 minutes, do some note-taking, see what's going right, look for strengths and weaknesses, and take some notes. Those notes can all be used in this process. And then, of course, your actual formal student evaluations. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Of course, those are done each quarter. And then any professional development. Now, that could be professional development you've done with Baker. So your dean, your program director, obviously tracks your attendance, your participation with those professional development that we have and hold on campus or even online. And then any type of PD that you might do within your profession.
Which I found that was kind of an interesting note. I come out of K-12 originally and then was working as an adjunct at Baker before I came on full-time. And so all of that PD that I did in the high school where I worked was able to be included and worked as part of this, which I thought was really, really fantastic.
Yeah, so you're just kind of building on that, starting from ground zero. Right. And then also, not to forget the operational responsibilities form, which really has to do with all of the, I guess, the business of your teaching. Your Blackboard, your professional requirement, are you meeting professional requirements in Blackboard specifically? Do you come to class on time? All those things. So that's all, you know, fair game. Does anybody have any questions regarding the evidence that can be gathered?
It wasn't regarding evidence, but we do have a question in chat. Is there a list that provides who has and has not been observed or evaluated? That's more of a who have people. It depends. When would they know if they're going through the process?
Okay, that's a good question. And each of the campuses currently, I believe each department holds a timeline. And so I think typically that's how it's handled. I know it is on Allen Park campus, Sarah.
Yeah, at Auburn Hills also, we'll actually, usually we hear from the CAO and the list goes down to the deans, and then, but to know when you are going to be is you'll be notified.
Yeah.
You get an email, it includes a memo with the entire packet of information, and I encourage you to really read that carefully because it tells you
yeah.
everything you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, what you need to turn in, dates, deadlines, everything. It's all included in that first memo that says you're due to be observed or you're due to be evaluated. Here's your information. So you will be notified, and I know at least on my campus they try to send them out in the first couple weeks of the quarter, and then they schedule it for just approximately weeks 5, 6, 7, sure, give or take.
Yeah, and I think the best part about that is that you know they're coming when it's part of that FACP. You know they're coming as an instructor. You have a little bit of time to prepare and feel like, okay, this is, maybe even show off a little bit, you know,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
in terms of where you can take your class and what you're actually really doing with them on a regular basis. So it's nice to have that be informed.
Great. Allison, were there any other questions that have come up?
Annual faculty evaluation versus FGEP, question mark.
Okay, that's interesting. So when we talked about time, we mentioned that the FGEP, which includes both observation and evaluation. So you are actually evaluated your first year, by the end of your first year, by the end of your second year, and then basically every third year thereafter. So your annual evaluation, same deal. The FGEP is now that annual evaluation, but in between, when you begin to be evaluated only every third year, in between you're observed.
Yeah.
So it's a formal observation, but not a formal evaluation.
Yeah. So those observation notes are put into a form, kept in your file, or what have you. So yeah.
Exactly.
Did that answer all those questions?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I thought maybe we'd take a look here at the student evaluation form, simply because I'm not sure that everybody gets an opportunity to look at this.
And also, you probably know that it's going electronic, and so some things have changed a little bit. There's some questions now when they ask a question, there's a follow-up question. based on the answer or whatnot. So we thought you might want to take a peek and see what some of those questions look like.
So just as I'm scrolling through, take a look at really what they've done in the student evaluation. It's just incorporated all of those categories in the FGEP. So they're asking a little bit different format from the student perspective, but we're looking at timely feedback. We're looking, you know, is the instructor fulfilling the Blackboard requirements, expectations in Blackboard? So we're just getting the student perspective, but honestly, there's nothing of surprise in here. You know, is the instructor incorporating technology, LCI? It's all about planning and preparation, professional expertise, learning, and, you know, all of the things that I think you already know. So again, just kind of getting the student perspective. And Sarah brought up some really good points about looking at these, so please use your example you told me the other day.
So before I give that example, let me actually ask, how many of you read your student evaluations? And whether you do or not, which we're all supposed to, but whether you do or not, what are they good for? Like what is the positive or the good about student evaluations? And feel free to unmute yourselves and share, or of course the chat as well. So do you read your student evals, and what are they good for?
I did have a comment. So the student evaluation of faculty is no longer the yes-no evaluation. I like what you show better as it aligns with the current FGEP. Another instructor, I use them to improve my next class.
Good. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
To answer the question, are we meeting student expectations? Yes, I always read them. I use them to make any necessary changes to my class. I read my student evaluations and focus on constructive comments.
Nice.
Yes, I read the student evals. They help me to see areas where growth is necessary.
Well, you all are certainly better than I am. I read mine in fear because if I have 23 fantastic, you're the best teacher I've ever encountered my entire life, I'm going to have one person that thinks I'm boring, and for the next year, I'm going to cry every night that I'm a boring person. So,
I do the same thing.
Yeah, and I think the tendency is to do that, and obviously these do go into the evaluation and part of your FGEP, but also there are things that we can just take from them, and you said a lot of that already. But on my campus, I work pretty closely with the math chair because I work with the English department, so we're in gen ed, and I work with the math chair a lot. And she has told me on countless times about one example that it came to her, she read it, and her first response was kind of like mine, which is, how dare they not like me, I work so hard. And so she put her student evaluations away, and a quarter later she pulled out those same ones and looked at them, and someone had actually, in their criticism, had been constructive and offered her a really great way of doing things, and she adopted it immediately, and she said, without a doubt, her class is better because she took a second, took a pause, and looked at those and really took what was good about them and grew from it instead of getting caught up on sort of the negative, which is certainly a tendency to do. And one thing that Heather and I talked about that's really good about them is that we can see patterns. And as a supervisor that goes in and we look for patterns in these student evaluations. If quarter after quarter they're saying you don't respond quick enough to emails,
right,
then probably this is something to pay attention to.
I think that's the healthiest advice with looking at student evaluations. I do the exact same thing. I get one negative comment, and it, you know, not only does it ruin my day, it ruins months and months after.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's the best, very, very good advice.
A couple of different things. Can we get a copy of the evaluation? And then another one, my concern is when you have two sessions of the same class taught the same way, and one says great on tech, for example, and the other one says never use tech. Sometimes that's very frustrating.
Absolutely. Allison, can you answer the question on whether they can get a copy of this form?
I really have no idea.
So we'll follow up. Go ahead.
I'm assuming, but I really don't know. I don't even know who has the forms, so.
Okay. Well, why don't we, Heather and I will follow up, and of course we have a list of everyone who signed up for this, so we'll shoot you an answer after, after we find an answer and let you know, and if we can send it to you as well. Obviously later in the quarter we'll be seeing them because they will go out to students. And the other question, so the first one was, can you get a copy? And the second question was?
Well, I think that's a really good comment. The second one was about one individual says, same class, says, hey, great, you did a great job with technology, and then somebody else says it was horrible. And I think that's, frankly, what's hard about reading student evaluations. You have to develop a pretty thick skin. Again, looking for those patterns if there are any. Sometimes you have to throw some comments out. That's tough. That's really tough because if you're a good practitioner, you're really reading those and counting on developing from those comments. So I sympathize with you because I've had that same experience.
Right.
And sometimes it depends, depending on the student and what their needs are or what type of technology they're familiar with. And you don't really have that when you read those comments. You don't know where they're coming from. So it truly is hard. There's a lot of research about student evaluations and a lot of controversy.
Yeah. And I think, if you have two classes and one says this and the other says that, well, again, you look for patterns to emerge. And then if maybe, 2 quarters in a row, you get that response of does not use enough technology, then start the next quarter by asking, what kind of technology are you looking for? Right. What would you like? And obviously you'll get the full spectrum of, oh my word, I don't know how to use my laptop, to, yeah. So it's really those patterns. Allison, are you getting that feedback that we are?
What?
Are you getting that feedback that we are?
Yes, I am. I just muted a couple of people.
Okay, great. Okay, so we want to actually move on to the PGP form, what this is going to look like. So if we can go ahead and we're going to pull that up. And this is what it will look like when it comes to you. And, your obvious faculty name and who's evaluating and what quarter, but we want you to look at a few things. So you'll sit down, you'll develop a PGP, and this is actually, what gets typed on and then is delivered to you and later you'll sign. And so here you'll see we have not only goals, but also strategies to help develop that goal. So if the goal is that they need to work to manage instructional time effectively, here are some strategies to help achieve that. And I think that's really important to look beyond just that first goal and see really what they're looking for. When we first looked at this goal, we're like, manage time effectively. Does that mean they go too long? Does that mean they go too short?
Yeah.
But when you look under it, you can see align instruction to the student learning outcomes. Okay, so maybe they were off point too often. And really the class needs to be sort of re-looked at how you're going to deliver that content. Plan for student engagement. So maybe the time wasn't effective because it was all lecture or whatever. So it's really important that you look at those strategies and also the rationale. So it's important that we're not just picking goals at random, but we're actually picking goals that can improve student learning. We all have a lot of goals that we can make for ourselves, but for this purpose, how will this improve student learning? And you'll see that your supervisor will fill that out and we'll go with that. And they're not just going to say, here's your goal, but they are going to provide you some resources. We're going to look at those resources in a second and kind of spend a little bit of time on those, but those will be right there, any links, whatever they want to send you to. And I wanted to point out that resources also includes here key individuals. So on almost all campuses now we have an IES, and you may get sent to spend some time with the IES, which on our campuses that would be Heather and I. And I meet with a lot of people and we talk about very specific things they can do to grow and improve. And those are always really, really rich conversations. And a lot of times it's with individuals who are already at a very high level. And so, your teaching is fantastic. Well, we still need to make goals and improve. And so a lot of times those people are sent to meet with us. Yeah. And then you'll see that also will need some proof of that meeting that goal or of that growth, and that, of course, comes in our evidence and the time frame. And when we were putting this together, one question that we had was, so who determines time? Who does that fall on? What does that look like? And the answer is really, it depends. So whether you teach once a year or whether you teach multiple classes every quarter, it's really between you and your supervisor. It may be your goals are going to happen in 3 parts, and so we're going to give you 3 quarters to meet them.
Right.
Or so it's really, it just depends, really. And then, of course, once you've turned in that evidence, and only after it's been turned in and looked at, after that, then you all will sit down, sign this, and then it will head up to HR. And only at that point is this process in the FGP, your annual evaluation, completed.
Yeah. Any questions on that, on the form? No, Elsa, no questions?
No questions. Oh, is there a way to access our PD records to print out for our evidence?
There is. You can, if you contact your campus IES, we keep track of all of the PDs and who attends what, and I get a lot of people that email me, usually for their jobs outside of Baker, and they say, hey, I have to prove that I've done so much PD, and I'll just shoot them off an email with what exactly they've completed and often the dates as well.
Okay, well, so now let's move on to the available resources and try to cover some of that first. We wanted to take you through some of these. Is it going to connect? Aha! So I know you're all familiar with this, or you would not be here right now. But of course, this is on our Effective Teaching and Learning website under Professional Development. And there's a lot of goodies, just a lot of goodies here. And I don't know that as an adjunct I was aware of just what was available to me here. I think that that's probably very much improved at this point. But I just want to take you again to the Academic Improvement the AIM Professional Development, and open that up just to remind you. And if you're new, you probably know you have a year in which to do those web-based modules. Now, there's 2 levels in each of 3 modules. Starts off with LCI, or Effective Teaching and Learning. Then you move to Assessment. And you can see it's all here. We have 2 versions listed here on the website. But to get to those web-based versions, you can, right through here. You have all your handouts you can print off. And then finally, the curriculum. So there's 2 levels to get through, and if you go into the Are you guys still there?
Yes. Heather and Sarah, did we lose you? We've been disconnected, it sounds like.
I can't hear the facilitators at all.
You can't hear what?
The facilitators?
Yeah, I don't think they're connected. That's what I'm checking on right now.
Okay.
Okay, what I am going to do is pull up
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
You are back? Okay.
Yeah, we don't know what happened, so we disconnected and started again.
Okay, good deal. I was going to just pull up the ETNL website and continue where you left off, but I had not gotten there yet. So
That was weird. I don't know why that happened.
Just share the screen back to us.
yeah, that's
So
okay.
do you need to pass the ball back to us?
I am passing the ball right now.
Can you see our screen?
Not yet.
So here? Yep.
Okay, looks like we've been passed.
All right, you can see our screen?
No.
Okay.
Well, there we go. Something's changing. Okay. Go up and click share, far left. There we go.
All right, well, let's try again. Where did we leave off for all of you?
We were in the AIM. Did we get that far? I mean, Sarah and I did, but
you were in the AIM and had just finished through curriculum.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. We don't know what happened.
Allison, was there anything you wanted to add about AIM?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfectly fine.
Okay, so another area that we wanted to make sure to open up here, just to kind of remind people about different resources, was the Blackboard professional requirements. And we have a lot of just-in-time or on-demand resources here for Blackboard, which people may not be aware of. Each bullet point here is actually a link, and many of them go right to the official Blackboard site. So this is a great training ground for Blackboard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And let's see, also wanted to show you, if you go under first year faculty experience, and if you're new, you've probably just been through this, but if you've been around for a while, you probably would have to go way back in your memory to remember going through some of these. Sarah was saying earlier, to remind everybody too, each of these, when you click, is actually a link. And this is available to you at all times. There's a wonderful lesson plan template if you don't currently utilize one, or maybe your program director would like you to. This is where you can find it, and a lot of wonderful resources here.
Right.
So normally you'd be doing that as a new person, but again, just to remind you that they are here, and there's a lot of great resources on this website. Okay, and then want to take you to library guides and resources. Now, you could go through student services and get to the library, but I would like to take you through My Baker. And to remember, our website is a bit under construction right now, so it's a bit of a haul, but I think worth it. Once you're on My Baker, you would go into the web application, sign in, and then if you go to the very top one, Employee Departments for Academic and ETNL, then you would go to, gotta find my Academic Division, and then scrolling down to Library, and then you can see you have your library webpage here, but then also this is kind of handy-dandy. You have the staffs at all the different locations, which is kind of neat, because there's helpful information here you may not even realize. Here's our system ed tech directors and resources right here, phone number information, and so forth. So I think that's important to mention. But here's the library webpage. And once you're there, scroll down. You can see faculty and staff resources right here. This is also a neat area that I think for a long time as an adjunct, I don't know about you, I didn't realize, wow, all of this was available to me.
Right.
So if you go to faculty and staff resources, quite a bit here. Some of the things that obviously you can do with your students, but then also things to help your own teaching practice. So if you keep scrolling down, here's helpful information and videos. There's a bit on adult learning theory, educational technology and resources, learner-centered instruction, and so forth. So there's a lot here Back on our page for our presentation, this is one of the links where we were going to take you. This is a wonderful page. A lot of information here. If you click around on these tabs, if you weren't sure about Google, if you needed resources, if you wanted to look into how to flip your classroom, there's a ton of tutorials. Here you can go to your Blackboard tutorials. They're all actually posted here. You'll notice there's some for students too. And often as instructors, we get asked from students saying, I don't know how to upload my assignment or what have you, or use an assignment link. So that's nice. Go to this is a wonderful page here that a bunch of people collaborated with. I know Bob Payne's a big part of putting this together for us. It is a wealth of information. On the right where it says click on labels below, really, you could scroll through here for quite a while and just click on one of these and just find a ton of information and tutorials and how-tos, all quick, brief, to the point. If you were interested, for instance, in Socrates and building an exit ticket in that software, which is called Socrates for formative assessment usage, you could get to that through here. So this is phenomenal.
And I give this page out like it's candy to instructors because there's just so, I mean, you need to put technology in here. Here's 100 different ways to really find one that works for you. And so I give this out like crazy and use it myself. Video everywhere. I can't remember how to put a video as a video announcement in Blackboard. Oh, I'm going to go to this page.
Yeah. So there's quite a bit there. You can really have a heyday. So again, I know that it's a bit of a pathway to get there,
yeah.
But it might be worth it to kind of look and fish around and kind of when you have some time to play around and look in there. All right.
Okay, and now we want to show you the,
go there for you.
Yeah, thank you. Show you, this is a page that in the very near future will be linked to your PGP. And you'll see here that there's kind of some information on top of how to use it, but as you scroll down a little bit, there's going to be a list of PGP goals that may have been on your page and given to you, just like manage instructional time effectively was on ours. So you find your goal, you click on your PGP, you'll go here, you find your goal, manage instructional time effectively, and you'll see that this one is under planning and preparation. You can notice the little letters at the end. It might be learning learning environment, learning facilitation, and that will be in the little letters that follow it. But if you'll choose the goal that you've been given,
we'll go there.
You'll see that here again is the goal and the strategies, just like we saw on the PGP. And here are just I'm going to use the word bazillion resources that can help you to meet those goals. So if, you know, your goal was to manage instructional time effectively, well, the AIM curriculum Tier 1 and Tier 2 can help you to meet the strategies of A and B, to align instruction to the student learning outcomes, and to plan for student engagement and learning. Maybe you want to focus in on developing a robust set of supplemental course materials, like it says under C. Well, look, here's a recorded PD session, designing wikis and blogs. So whatever the goal is, there's just a ton of resources to help you achieve it. So, and you'll see they all look kind of similar. So Heather, if you want to go back a page. Yeah. And we'll choose another goal.
This one? Sure. Learning facilitation.
So this one's under learning facilitation. You'll see that in the top corner. Here's a ton of strategies, and then, wow, here's some resources. So there's research, there's articles, there's PDs, all sorts of things to help you meet that goal and to help you to actually grow as part of the plan. So this is a really fantastic resource that, as I said, will very soon be linked in your PGP and take you directly to resources. And then, of course, as you click these, they'll take you to the resource itself.
That's the beauty of it, I think, as we're improving the forum itself and as we're improving this process, is time is of the essence, of course, because so many of our adjuncts are doing a million things, working at 2, maybe 3 schools and so forth. So this is a wonderful way to build your professional practice as a facilitator, instructor, and it's quick, in terms of getting to it. It's not that you can't yourself go out and find resources and materials, but we want to be supportive and show you where you can get the stuff right away. Right. Any questions about this? Comments?
One comment, these are great sites.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we agree.
Yeah.
We did have a question for you.
Very helpful, thank you.
Oh, good.
We did have a question. We wanted to make clear that there's a ton of good resources, but also, as I said earlier, your campus may have specific resources. So do you know of any resources that are unique to your campus that you may have? Anything in yet, Allison?
No.
Like, for instance, I know on the Allen Park campus, Sarah and I were talking about this earlier because we were thinking there's a lot of people walking around on ground, right on your campus that you can track down and utilize. Obviously, your dean, your program director, and a lot of times they're super busy too. I know on the Allen Park campus we have open labs, so you can attend an open lab for utilizing Blackboard. Soon we're going to introduce Google and Google practices in the classroom. On some of the campuses there's mentors, like a mentor situation setup. You might want to begin one on your campus,
right?
If there isn't currently one. We also have something called Gold Cords here on the Allen Park campus where, let's say you're struggling with some technology, specifically in Blackboard. And if you can find somebody in the faculty workroom wearing a gold lanyard, what we call them the Gold Cords, those are people we've identified have a lot of experience in Blackboard. So there's probably a lot of unique resources that you may not even be aware of on your campus.
And don't forget about your campus IES. Whenever I lead faculty sessions, I always say my entire job is to assist faculty and to develop faculty. So you need to hit me up because otherwise, I'm sitting there, what am I doing? I'm supposed to be helping and assisting, and I know the other IESs feel the same way. They want to be a resource.
Absolutely.
So if our question was, that we were dealing with was, so I have a PGP, now what? The answer is all of these resources. So you go through the process, and it's really going into these resources and using these to move forward and to grow.
Yeah, don't forget about and I know they're called academic resource centers now, but really it's, your libraries on campus. Those are wonderful resources. I mean, just talking to your key people in those academic resource centers, really, I think they're probably underutilized. It seems here, anyway, on my campus, where maybe you don't realize how you could collaborate with people in the ARC, whether you're working on a research project or, even obviously your own teaching practice. There's resources that those people know of that they can really help you out with. So.
And so that takes us through what we wanted to bring to you, and now we have a little bit of time left, and we just want to leave it open and say, what questions do you have, what can we answer for you or help you with, or what comments do you have to contribute to this presentation?
I see that this is recorded. Where would we be able to view this if we want to review your presentation?
That is a wonderful question. So you'll notice that when Heather took you through the ETNL site, that the first two options that you were able to choose were
okay, I'm going to interrupt just really quick. I just had a question. Can you repeat the pathway to find the Tier 1 and 2 training? If you can repeat the pathway and show them how to get there, you can show them where both are.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So this is under My Baker, and you would go into My Baker and Web Applications, and then choose, academic divisions, and then get in here to your professional development. And once you do, now obviously we just clicked and you'll see the URL of top departments, effective teaching and learning, professional development. And then all of these PDs are housed in the same place where you would register for them. So we have the administrative evaluator PDs and, of course, like this one, the faculty PDs, which you'll see here are some from the past. We have the first faculty PD, Blackboard, filling in the gaps, answering your questions. And when this one is ready, it will load right there under those that are already recorded, and you can tune in anytime.
Almost sound like a commercial.
That's what I was aiming for.
Yeah. So, and then you can see there's, obviously you got that calendar going, but they're storing them all right here, so it's kind of convenient, one-stop shop, which is kind of nice.
Right, and then somebody had asked about the AIM ones, and they are just a little bit further down.
Yep, and then pop right into the AIM. And then you can see everything is housed right there. Here's your web-based version right here. You want to make sure to read the directions up here, okay, that these links are not currently active. There are some directions for you here, but you certainly can get in to do those modules, and all your documents are here. And there's assessment, there's your web-based, all the information is right there, supporting documents, and then finally curriculum. Okay, and same thing. You got your face-to-face, which no reason why you can't look at that if you want to. You can scroll through those PowerPoints. There's no reason why you can't. But in terms of being counted and being recorded that you did complete that tier that you're attempting to complete, you do need to click in and do the actual module, the online module, because there is an accompanying quiz to show that you completed and, yes, you did gain something. You understood the material. Okay?
Great. Any other questions?
I have a thank you very much for going through that again.
You're very welcome. And we also wanted to leave you with our contact information, so that way if you had any questions on this, any further questions, of course you can reach out to your campus IES, to your supervisor, but feel free to reach out to Heather or myself. We are more than happy to really answer any of these questions or go through this process with you. And again, we just want to state that we know that you showed up, success is showing up. You showed up today and you participated, so we know that you are a thoughtful practitioner and that you really are wanting to grow and improve, and we just want to offer you kudos for that.
Most definitely. Keep in mind, too, self-reflection is really the key to change and a best practice for teachers. It's so important to follow up and follow through with goal setting, and we really think the PGP process is one that fosters that.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. So with that, we will be ending the session. So please feel free to log out. And Sarah, I do need